Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the speaking and listening assessment. Now this video specifically is going to break down some of the key details on how to plan your response so that you're ready for the assessment. Now if you haven't done so already, please could you like and subscribe, it really does help us out when you do so. So first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to look at the statements below and just identify which ones you'd consider to be true and which ones might be false. So firstly we have, you must be recorded during your presentation. You only ever have to do your speaking and listening once. You need to do 2 activities in your speaking and listening, one with a group and one as an individual. And the final one, you only get 1 attempt to pass or to fail this assessment. So if you want to pause the video here and take your time and think about which ones you know to be either true or false, please feel free to do so. We're now going to jump ahead and we're going to go through the answers together. Class feedback. Check your understanding against the answers below. So as you can see, looking at the table now, on the true side we only have one statement that is actually correct. So you need to do 2 activities, one as a group, one as an individual. This can be quite challenging, especially if you're actually within a group of people that you don't know. So when you actually come to things like presenting by yourself, it's really important that you actually have built some kind of a relationship or a rapport with the rest of the people in the group so that they make you feel a little bit less self-conscious when you do it. Similarly, when you're doing your presentation as a group, if you're able to actually get the conversation to flow like a normal everyday conversation that you might have with friends or with colleagues, then that's going to make it easier for you all to gain a pass. For the statements that we consider false, we have you must be recorded during your presentation. Now this is actually kind of one that is true and false as well by the same time, and really it depends on the centre that you're doing your assessment with or your individual teacher. Now for the exam board, that your teacher has actually been told that they need 1 or 2 examples throughout the year to show that someone has actually done a recording. But if you don't want to do it, if you're feeling really nervous and self-conscious about it, then they'll be understanding and they just want to make sure that you have done the presentation, both individually and as a group, and also if you've got any evidence to back it up, so things like a PowerPoint presentation or a Word document or any notes of any type, that will be really beneficial as well. Okay, so the second false statement is you only have to do your speaking and listening once. So it might be that you've started functional skills and you might be on entry level 3 or something like that. Just because you've done your speaking and listening assessment for that level doesn't mean that will carry on for level 1 and for level 2. You will still have to do the assessment again. However, there's no reason why you can't use some of the same ideas again when you do your next presentation for the other levels as well. The final one, you only get 1 attempt to pass or fail this assessment, and that's false. The reason why I've included this is because a lot of people get really nervous and very anxious when it comes to doing this assessment. It's nothing really that you should worry about. Again, if you've been conversing in everyday life and especially in the workplace, these are all typical skills that you might have had. We just need to make sure that we hone in on them and make sure they're fully developed before we do the assessment. So if you think about the stretch and challenge task there on the right hand side, I'd just like to think what kind of skills are needed for speaking and listening. Think about everyday life, think about the workplace, what is good speaking and listening, and what are some of the things that you might want to avoid doing when it comes to your assessment. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to recall some of the key details regarding the speaking and listening assessment, understand how to conduct your speaking and listening, and finally, apply your understanding to produce a plan for your speaking and listening assessment. So, what is the speaking and listening assessment, and what kind of skills do we need to be aware of? So the speaking and listening assessment is a verbal form of assessment designed to test the skills used in the following areas. So these are going to be things like in interviews, the workplace, academic study, and everyday life. So a key thing to remember with this is that many of the skills that we cover during speaking and listening are the things you would naturally use in everyday life. So don't stress about it too much. Just make sure that you're actually thinking very carefully about how you're actually structuring your response and thinking very carefully about the message you're trying to convey to your audience. Look at the topics below and attempt the challenges that follow. So these are all typical topics that you could choose when attempting your speaking and listening assessment. Specifically, these are going to be designed for thinking about when you're doing your individual presentation. Now, these are just suggestions. If you've got any others that you can think of yourself, please feel free to go with one of those instead. So typical topics may include things like a favourite hobby, a discussion on your birthplace or where you grew up. Now, this is particularly interesting if you're English as a second language or if you're from a different area compared to where you're actually doing your course now. Your career, so it might be the actual job or profession that you're currently in or hope to be in. A holiday or day trip that was particularly enjoyable or even one that was particularly bad. What would you like to do after you've passed the course? So once you've passed your functional skills course, are you going to go on to another vocational course, or are you aiming to go on and do GCSE English, for example? Health and exercise is another typical one. And then I'd like to think about these challenges. So the first one is, which of these topics do you think you'd be able to talk about? So have a look through each one and just decide which one actually speaks to you and which one actually help you come up with some interesting ideas to base your presentation on or your discussion on. Identify one topic to speak about for approximately 5 minutes or so. And the mega challenge, use the planning sheet to start drafting your first ideas. So if you want to access this, it will be available in the link below. We're also going to go through it now in the next part of the video. Planning structure. Use the structure below to help plan your response. So a simple structure to help you could be, start off with an introduction. So say, good afternoon, my name is, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about. Again, we're not really after something that's overly complicated. We're just going for something that's very simple, clear and concise. First point, I have chosen this topic because, and then go on to give a few details on why this is an important topic, what it means to you, and what has actually led you to actually focus your presentation or your discussion on that topic. Second point, identify a key detail surrounding this topic. So for example, if you were to choose a hobby, how much does it cost? What kind of equipment is needed? So go through some of the basic details that someone might need to know. And let's assume that if you are talking about a hobby, that the person you're actually speaking to might be interested in taking this hobby up. So you want to give them the relevant details so they can go away and pursue that hobby after you've done speaking. So for our third point, this is what we're going to think about then. So how can people find out more about the topic that you've chosen? What websites are available? Are there any venues that are nearby? Any kind of crucial information that they might need to know? Now this is really important because if you are actually presenting to a group of people, one of the main aims is to grab their attention and get them interested in it. So they might very well want to actually build on what you've told them during your presentation or your discussion, and they might want to go and find out more about it themselves. For our conclusion, sum up the main features of your topic, touch on the kind of things you've already spoken about a little bit, and make sure you've given a very clear and complete overview of the topic you've chosen. A good thing to think about in this one is that you need to make sure that you're getting up to about 5 minutes within your speaking and listening. When we're actually planning this out, it does often seem that it's a little bit less than that. So a good idea to do is to actually read it out loud and get a little bit of practice before you do your actual presentation. And the final thing, make sure that you actually sign off in an appropriate manner. So thank the audience for listening and ask them if anyone has any questions, because that's actually quite a key part of the assessment as well. You'll be asked to ask questions to the audience, and you'll also be marked on your responses to them. So in order to get a decent mark with your speaking and listening, you have to make sure that you're able to respond appropriately to any questions that you are faced with. If you need any additional help, the new videos will be added every single week. Alternatively, give us a like and subscribe, leave us a comment, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as we can. If you can't find anything that you like on our channel, please do check out our partner channel, Bookworm Teaching, for more lessons and guidance on all things English. Thanks ever so much for listening, guys, and all the best with your speaking and listening in the future. Bye bye.